Disbelief in Dalton Thursday evening as Chicago's former mayor, who was hired to investigate Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard's administration, revealed the shocking spending of taxpayer dollars.
Drama in Dalton. Credit card transactions amounting to thousands of dollars without explanation and millions more owed to vendors.
A bombshell report highlights just how much financial trouble the village of Dalton is really.
Trustees say the village is facing financial disaster and they blame the mayor for mismanagement. She says this is all just political.
Residents of Dalton and Thornton Township, long aware of their community's financial difficulties, were stunned by revelations from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot that uncovered a fiscal crisis far worse than anyone had anticipated. The area is now mired in millions of dollars of debt, a situation that has worsened over the years. Frustrated citizens have called for Tiffany Henyard, mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township, to step down, but their pleas have been ignored. Henyard has shown no remorse or willingness to address the mounting accusations of corruption, favoritism, and financial mismanagement that have plagued her time in office. Instead, her administration has become a lightning rod for controversy, with claims of embezzlement, misuse of taxpayer funds, and reckless decision-making overshadowing any positive contributions despite widespread outcry. Henyard's apparent indifference to the concerns of her constituents has only fueled resentment and distrust. The announcement of an FBI investigation into her conduct has marked a turning point, sending shockwaves through the community, which had long been accustomed to broken promises and political theater. Evidence of Henyard's actions continues to mount, painting a grim picture of governance where personal agendas have consistently taken precedence over the public good. Allegations of lavish spending, taxpayer-funded luxury vacations, expensive purchases, and wasteful projects have led many to believe Henyard is determined to leave Dalton and Thornton Township financially drained before her tenure ends. The fiscal mismanagement and unethical behavior extend beyond the misuse of funds. They reflect a broader failure in leadership and responsibility. Residents are questioning how one individual could so brazenly erode public trust and dismantle the financial foundations of their community. Adding insult to injury, Lightfoot's review of Dalton's finances uncovered a shocking $36.5 million deficit in the village's general fund. This revelation has become a symbol of the administration's failures, encapsulating years of neglect and misappropriation that have pushed the community to the brink of collapse. Public outrage has grown as reports emerge of Henyard using public funds for personal indulgences, such as extravagant travel and an $85,000 personal audit. This has solidified her image as a leader detached from the struggles of her constituents. The fallout has also been felt in Thornton Township, which is also under Henyard's jurisdiction. Crucial services like insurance, transportation for seniors, and food assistance have been jeopardized due to a breakdown in administrative operations. These hardships highlight the human cost of leadership failures, as vulnerable populations bear the brunt of decisions made for personal gain. The ongoing FBI investigation has become a symbol of hope for some residents who see it as a potential pathway to justice and the restoration of accountability. Many view it as a necessary intervention after years of stalled local efforts to curtail Henyard's unchecked authority. Her refusal to address these mounting issues has only deepened suspicions about her intent, with critics accusing her of deliberately stalling while public resources are diverted for her own benefit. Her absence from critical township meetings, particularly those focused on resolving the insurance crisis, has added fuel to the fire, as residents see these absences as emblematic of her disregard for the community's well-being. Prominent critics, including trustees like Chris Gonzalez, have pointed out the dangerous implications of such neglect, emphasizing that issues such as insurance and essential services are not merely political, but have profound consequences on people's lives. The worsening state of affairs has rallied opposition and sparked calls for a complete overhaul of leadership, with the hope that Dalton and Thornton Township can rebuild from the ashes of mismanagement and restore the community to a place of financial stability and integrity.
From multiple sources that federal agents are in fact interviewing witnesses as part of a possible investigation that may or may not result in charges.
The controversy surrounding Tiffany Henyard escalated as she became the target of numerous complaints, with some of the most troubling allegations coming from business owners. These owners claimed their establishments were unfairly targeted and shut down simply for refusing to support political events backed by Henyard. The accusations painted a troubling picture of an administration accused of leveraging power for personal and political vendettas rather than fostering a thriving local economy. Business owners described an atmosphere of fear and retaliation, where refusing to align with the mayor's agenda could lead to sudden, unjust regulatory actions, including arbitrary fines or outright closures. These actions have strained the relationship between Henyard's administration and the business community, deepening public distrust. Critics argue that such behavior reflects an abuse of power, prioritizing personal political gain over the economic vitality of the businesses that contribute to the town's prosperity. The ripple effect of these actions extended beyond the business sector, with residents expressing outrage over the apparent disregard for fair governance and ethical leadership. Henyard's detractors cited these incidents as further evidence of an administration that consistently placed self-interest above community well-being, fueling growing calls for transparency, accountability, and her removal from office. These allegations, combined with mounting evidence of financial mismanagement and other scandals, have further alienated a significant portion of the public, reinforcing the belief that her leadership is no longer sustainable. While Henyard has denied any wrongdoing and dismissed the claims as baseless attacks, her failure to respond meaningfully to the concerns of business owners and citizens alike has only deepened the crisis. This alleged misuse of power has added another layer to an already complex web of accusations, leaving many wondering if Henyard's administration can recover from the mounting backlash, or if these events signal the beginning of the end of her political career.
Or retaliation. Both of the Dalton bars that were raided and shut down last night, we visited the day before as part of our ongoing investigation into allegations of political corruption in Dalton.
They just rushed in here, put police at the front of the door like they was doing a raid on the drug house.
A team of Dalton police officers raided and shut down Pablo's Bar and Cafe and Rinky's Bar and Cafe, both located uncivilly about a block apart.
Everything going peacefully. Nothing going on. It's like 10 police cars came in and they start pushing customers from here. And he said, if you don't leave, we're going to lock.
The controversy surrounding Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard intensified as employees and business owners accused her of an ongoing campaign of harassment that has cost jobs and money. These business owners claim their licenses have been stripped by the village, yet they continue to operate under state jurisdiction. As the situation grew more tense, former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was appointed to investigate the alleged illicit activities of Henyard. This decision marked a critical turning point in the unfolding saga, and Henyard's reaction was swift and combative. Her administration seemed determined to undermine Lightfoot's efforts. From the start, Henyard's immediate strategy was to deflect responsibility. She attempted to shift the blame for the escalating issues facing Dalton and Thornton Township onto the village trustees. This move not only deepened the existing divisions within local government, but also further alienated Henyard from an already skeptical public. Despite mounting evidence of mismanagement and corruption, Henyard continued to deny any wrongdoing, portraying Lightfoot's investigation as politically motivated and designed to tarnish her reputation. However, Henyard's deflection tactics began to lose their effectiveness as Lightfoot's investigation uncovered a pattern of financial mismanagement and corruption directly tied to Henyard's administration. The investigation revealed a troubling landscape, filled with questionable financial practices, unexplained deficits, and a series of financial irregularities that pointed directly back to Henyard. However, Henyard continued to dismiss the findings, characterizing the inquiry as a personal attack on her leadership. As Lightfoot's investigation progressed, it became clear that the mayor had misused taxpayer funds for extravagant expenses, justifying them as community improvements that provided little tangible benefit to the residents. Lavish travel, costly personal perks, and questionable contracts became emblematic of an administration accused of prioritizing self-interest over the needs of its constituents. Henyard's resistance to Lightfoot's probe only fueled public outrage. The deeper the investigation dug, the more troubling the details became. Lightfoot's findings illustrated a consistent pattern of financial waste and a lack of transparency in decision-making. Despite the growing evidence, Henyard and her supporters continued to argue that she was a victim of a smear campaign orchestrated by political rivals. They insisted that the systemic problems Henyard inherited when taking office were the primary cause of the village's financial woes. On the other hand, an increasing number of residents and officials demanded accountability, viewing Henyard's attempts to deflect responsibility as desperate and unconvincing. As the investigation continued, the divide between Henyard's defenders and her critics grew wider. Supporters maintained that the mayor was unfairly targeted and that the issues she faced were beyond her control. Critics, however, saw her actions as a direct attempt to evade responsibility for her administration's failures. This widening divide set the stage for further political conflict, with calls for Henyard's resignation growing louder, accompanied by protests and demands for immediate corrective action to restore the integrity of local governance. Each new revelation from Lightfoot's investigation seemed to confirm the worst fears of Henyard's detractors, further eroding public trust in her leadership despite the mounting pressure. Henyard remained defiant, refusing to step down and instead doubling down on her claims of innocence. Her resistance only deepened the perception that she was unwilling to take responsibility for her administration's actions. The longer she held on to power, the more entrenched the public's belief became that Henyard was unwilling to engage in the necessary reforms to address the growing crisis. Amidst the chaos, Lightfoot's investigation continued to reveal deeper issues within Henyard's administration, such as allegations of favoritism and unethical conduct. These findings underscored the broader challenges facing Dalton and Thornton Township, emphasizing the urgent need for structural reforms and competent leadership. The impact of Lightfoot's investigation reverberated beyond Henyard's office, acting as a rallying cry for those seeking to reclaim their community from the grip of political dysfunction. For Lightfoot, the investigation underscored the importance of transparency and accountability in governance, even as she faced criticism from Henyard loyalists and political factions trying to protect their interests. As Henyard's administration faltered under the weight of mounting public scrutiny and the findings of Lightfoot's investigation, it became clear that the story of Tiffany Henyard's time in office was no longer just a local issue. It had become a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, the consequences of failed leadership, and the resilience of a community determined to demand better. Whether or not Henyard ultimately faced legal or political consequences for her actions, her legacy was already defined by the scandals that overshadowed her tenure. The lessons of her administration about the importance of accountability, transparency, and the responsibilities of public office will continue to reverberate long after her political career has ended. As Dalton and Thornton Township look to rebuild, the deep scars left by Henyard's leadership will serve as a reminder of the dangers of neglecting public trust and the critical need for ethical governance.
Chaos. Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard at the helm of the village's first packed meeting since Dalton Trustees passed a resolution last month requiring her to turn over the village's financial records and asking the FBI to investigate her alleged misuse of village funds. The mayor admits to a $2 million deficit, but trustees say
Tiffany Henyard's attempt to involve the FBI in investigating her behavior was both audacious and ultimately embarrassing, shedding light on the fragile dynamics of her administration. Likely trying to assert her innocence or shift scrutiny away from local investigations, Henyard proposed federal intervention. However, the Board of Trustees swiftly countered her proposal with a decisive majority vote to override her veto. This action starkly displayed the growing rift between Henyard and local government officials, highlighting the board's lack of confidence in her leadership. For many residents, Henyard's call for the FBI's involvement seemed less about seeking truth and accountability and more about a calculated attempt to control the narrative. Critics viewed it as an act of desperation, designed to deflect attention from mounting allegations of corruption, financial mismanagement, and ethical breaches that had come to define her time as mayor. The decision to override her veto not only reinforced the trustees' resolve to maintain local oversight, but also underscored Henyard's increasing isolation within the corridors of power. The optics of the situation were particularly damaging. Henyard's proposal to invite federal involvement was interpreted by some as an implicit admission of the severity of the issues she faced. At the same time, it was seen by others as an attempt to shift the focus to a higher authority, away from local accountability. The swift and decisive vote to nullify her veto sent a strong message of defiance, rejecting what many viewed as a futile and misguided maneuver. This episode added another layer of controversy to an administration already embroiled in scandal. Henyard's detractors seized the moment, framing it as further evidence of her inability to effectively govern or navigate the political landscape of Dalton and Thornton Township. Observers noted how this incident highlighted her growing tendency to prioritize self-preservation over genuine leadership, particularly as her administration became mired in allegations ranging from lavish spending to misuse of taxpayer funds and neglect of pressing community needs. The community's response was telling, with residents voicing frustration over the spectacle that had replaced functional governance. Many saw Henyard's attempt to involve the FBI as an unnecessary diversion from the pressing local issues that needed immediate attention. With local services under strain, financial mismanagement rampant, and trust in government institutions at an all-time low, residents felt the priority should have been addressing these issues head-on rather than engaging in what they perceived as a performative gesture for the Board of Trustees. Their decision to override Henyard's veto was not just a rejection of an ill-conceived proposal. It was a statement of their commitment to maintaining local control and accountability during a time of escalating crisis. The trustees were determined to take the reins and prevent further disruption caused by Henyard's erratic decision-making. Their vote symbolized a collective effort to stabilize a fractured administration and restore a semblance of governance.
The veto message is related to the secret squirrel meetings, yes, that the Board of Trustees have.
The trustees vowed to override her veto. One of them, Kiana Belcher, sitting at the meeting with her portrait because she says it was removed from the wall of Village Hall.
And this is just a process to drag it along, but everybody sees what's going on.
The village, under Henyard's leadership, is cracking down on access, pushing media at tonight's meeting to the very back of the room, almost out of sight of public comment from residents. But their voices were loud and clear.
Everybody cares about the person that's making a mess.
Henyard placing the blame elsewhere.
But only judge when you got both sides of the story, not one side narrative, which is negative narrative.
Under Tiffany Henyard's leadership, the village is cracking down on access, pushing media to the very back of the room during meetings, almost out of sight from public comment. Despite this, residents' voices were loud and clear. You lied to us as residents. You do not stand for me, and I want you to step down as mayor today and save our village from this deficit that you've caused, one resident exclaimed. Another added, the mayor can blame everybody for what's going on, but she has to look at herself. Nobody told her to get on TV and act like that. Everybody cares, except the person making a mess and placing the blame elsewhere. But you can only judge when you hear both sides of the story. Not just one negative narrative. Henyard has consistently portrayed herself as innocent, dismissing criticism as prejudice against black women. However, she has refused to respond to questions regarding her infamous trip to Las Vegas, where she allegedly spent thousands of taxpayer dollars on lodging, meals, and airline tickets.
Hands together at this time and this moment. This is what we got this year, right? Y'all all say my resolution category. So guess what? I am the. Don't forget I am the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. If y'all ain't learned that yet. Of course I'm going to give away $1 million to help you pay your mortgage and your rent. Of course I am. The mayor, not the trustees that don't do nothing, that only run their mouth. We getting scrutinized in the media. For what? Loving on the people, showing them that they matter to us. We going through the fires for y'all.
When it was revealed that Tiffany Henyard had embezzled millions of dollars from the general fund, without accounting for other alleged embezzlements, she seemed to vanish. She avoided news outlets' attempts to contact her. The general fund for day-to-day operations was in the red, with a $3.65 million deficit. Police department expenditures were up 21%, with 2 officers receiving more in overtime pay than their regular pay. As of June 18th, 589 checks totaling over $6 million were approved but never sent to vendors. 6 different credit cards were used, but receipts were rarely provided. Purchases, including $40,000 in Amazon charges, are under investigation. You may hear many things, but I can assure you the financial information is clear, one official stated.
I knew we were broke, and the way she broke it down and just let the other residents hear what was really going on, because Tiffany Henyard always talk about fake news.
Additionally, it was discovered that the village had excessively used credit cards. Despite repeated requests for an interview, Mayor Tiffany Henyard did not answer any questions and was reported to be absent from the building. Village staff could not specify when she would return. The following day, at a packed community meeting, the trustees emphasized the facts, underscoring that Henyard's actions were far from those of a leader serving the people. They highlighted that she had used public funds to support her extravagant lifestyle, revealing a troubling pattern of financial mismanagement and disregard for her community's well-being.
The village's credit card spending is out of control. Mayor Tiffany Henyard didn't respond to any of my requests today, and I'm told she's not in the building. No response to repeated interview requests. I tried to track down Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard in person today. Village employees told me she wasn't in the office and didn't say when she would be, a day after this. A packed community meeting Thursday night, outburst.
Despite repeated attempts to secure an interview, Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard refused to respond. When I attempted to meet with her in person, village employees informed me she was not in the office and could not specify when she would return. A day later, at a packed community meeting on Thursday night, tensions boiled over as residents voiced their frustrations. Henyard's leadership was increasingly called into question, with many community members demanding accountability for the financial mismanagement plaguing the village in the midst of the growing controversy. Henyard seemed to have found new allies in the legal industry. Following the firing of her previous top assistant, Keith Freeman, she appeared to be taking steps to insulate herself from inquiries. At a recent board meeting, Henyard's criminal defense attorneys, Bo Brindley and Ed McDavid, were present, sitting alongside the village's attorneys, as Henyard's defense team closely monitored the proceedings. Brindley, a federal criminal defense lawyer, is known for aggressive legal strategies, and it was clear that Henyard was preparing for a long legal battle. Her defense attorneys listened intently during the board's private executive session, demonstrating her efforts to protect herself amid the ongoing FBI corruption investigation as expected. Henyard maintained her innocence, claiming she was being unjustly targeted. She accused the trustees of wasting public funds on investigating her, portraying herself as the only one truly working for the community. However, the situation was increasingly complicated by the actions of her administration. Notably, Henyard had appointed Louis Lacey, a figure who was later sacked by the Dalton Village Council for insubordination, to a new, powerful role. Lacey's appointment was seen by many as unlawful, with the board members questioning Henyard's decision to elevate someone with such a controversial history. The appointment of Lacey only added to the sense of unrest within the community. Lacey, who had been previously involved in legal troubles, was arraigned on federal bankruptcy fraud charges. He was accused of lying under oath in a scheme to conceal assets and income from creditors. Lacey's legal team, however, vehemently denied the charges, asserting his innocence. The media attention surrounding Lacey's case was part of the larger narrative that continued to cast a shadow over Henyard's administration, while Henyard had once enjoyed nearly unanimous support from the Thornton Township Board. Her silence on Lacey's appointment and the mounting scandals surrounding her led to fractures within her support base. A whistleblower from the Thornton Board of Trustees came forward, detailing how Henyard had manipulated employees, vendors, and residents to increase her influence. The whistleblower alleged that Henyard had presented a false image of success, funded by the hard-working taxpayers of Thornton Township and Dalton. As the situation escalated, Henyard continued to deny any wrongdoing, dismissing her opponents as merely seeking attention, as tensions in Dalton remained high. Henyard's latest appointment sparked further controversy. She appointed Michael A. Smith, a political figure with a long history in South suburban politics, to a top assistant role with a $100,000 annual salary. Smith, 34, was said to be well-versed in the law, having been involved in politics for years. However, his past raised significant concerns. Smith had been charged with at least 8 different crimes over the years, ranging from official misconduct to domestic violence. In 2012, Smith's involvement in a case where a young trustee in Dixon resigned after pleading guilty to stealing patrol duties and impersonating a police officer raised further questions about his integrity. Despite these troubling issues, Henyard's decision to appoint Smith was made without external approval, deepening concerns about her decision-making. Many saw this appointment as another instance of Henyard surrounding herself with controversial figures, further alienating residents and trustees alike as Henyard's administration continued to face mounting criticism. The situation in Dalton became increasingly tense. The financial mismanagement, questionable appointments, and legal troubles only added to the already fragile state of leadership. The ongoing FBI investigation into Henyard's conduct only heightened the pressure, leaving many in the community wondering if her time as mayor was drawing to a close, while Henyard refused to step down. Her refusal to engage with the community and address the growing concerns had only fueled distrust and anger among residents. In a town already grappling with financial woes, Henyard's controversial decisions and actions seemed to exacerbate the problems rather than provide solutions. As the investigation continued and the community's calls for accountability grew louder, Henyard's ability to hold on to power became more uncertain. The saga of Tiffany Henyard's leadership in Dalton and Thornton Township was far from over, but with each passing day, her position appeared more precarious.